Have you noticed that millions of black people have changed in ways benefiting the white society? Millions of black men now cares more about their tennis shoes than they do about black liberation. In fact, many black men openly says they don't want to hear anything regarding black liberation and chooses instead to talk about the latest tennis shoes and sports statistics. In fact, most black men no longer yearns for black liberation. Most instead yearns only for a comfortable position within the system of white supremacy. When you combine these noted facts with many additional facts, it becomes clear that the black population has changed fundamentally in ways that are beneficial to the white society, such as the fact that many African Americans are now openly saying that they're happy that slavery happened because they now perceive it that it ultimately benefited us. We also changed by calling ourselves, from calling ourselves brothers and sisters and calling our oppressors crackers, to now calling ourselves by the N word while calling our oppressors white people, which clearly demonstrates that we're respecting ourselves much lesser and we're respecting them much more. We also unanimously agreed that white oppressive forces were our worst enemies. Today, millions of us are now insisting that we're our worst enemies. During the 1960s, we implemented the most successful unified protest in U.S. history. Today, we're now more divided than at any previous time in U.S. history. We once all agreed that we came from Africa. Nowadays, millions of us are now insisting that we're not from Africa, although millions of us have taken DNA analysis that have scientifically confirmed our African identity. We are now more confused and divided about our identity than any previous time in history. When you open your eyes and look at facts objectively, it becomes clear to see that the African American culture has fundamentally changed in ways benefiting the system of white supremacy. It's always by deliberate design whenever the oppressed population changes in ways benefiting their oppressors. Those noted changes within the African American population were deliberately achieved through an ideological subversion system that's been deployed against the African American population. Ideological subversion is an offensive psychological warfare tactic that uses disinformation, misinformation, and unrelenting propaganda to change a targeted population in ways that are against their own interests, and instead in ways serving those who are deploying the ideological subversion system. What it basically means is to change a people's perception of reality and their behaviors to such an extent that no one is able to come to a sensible conclusion in the interest of liberating themselves. It's an essential tool in information warfare. Information warfare is when false information is fed to a targeted population that are designed to make the targeted population think and behave in ways that are against their own interests, and instead in ways serving those who are conducting the information warfare. Information warfare is extremely effective because people's thoughts and behaviors align with the information that they've been fed and made to believe. Therefore, white oppressive forces feed the black population lies that keep us thinking and behaving in ways that are against our own interests and that instead serve the white society. This disclosed ideological subversion system is being perpetually deployed against the African American population in response to the unprecedented unified black protests of the 1960s. It's how white oppressive forces subdued it, and it's how they ensure that it never happens again. Because white oppressive forces write the narratives that we function based upon, they're able to steer our culture in ways that benefits them. White social engineering scientists remove black liberation from the minds of millions of black people by changing the black community's definition of what are black heroes. They changed black heroes from being men like Malcolm and Martin, and instead as being athletes like Kobe and Jordan. They also keep black liberation from our collective minds by keeping us believing the fraudulent, worst possible narratives about ourselves. Because doing so heavily demoralizes us. The ultimate goal is to demoralize the black population to such an extent that we begin to doubt our own ability to govern ourselves and believe that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. Moreover, we believe that we're better off living under white dominance, and therefore we abandon all hopes of ever liberating ourselves. It also creates black self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people, and we can then be ruled over forever. Furthermore, without having a collective and unifying pride within ourselves, over time we become further fragmented and we become weaker as a people. We can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us to be. This is all possible because regardless of how intelligent people are, if it's possible to control the input of information that are fed into their minds, it's entirely possible to control what they'll believe, how they will think, and how they'll behave. White oppressive forces have exploited their monopoly over information that black people receive to deploy a nefarious ideological subversion system against the entire black population. Ideological subversion is a process that is overt and obvious. All you have to do is open your eyes and start critically thinking. You can see the change in our culture. Through it, they've turned our culture upside down. The narratives that we receive shapes our thoughts. How you think creates how you feel. How you feel becomes an emotion. And that emotion becomes the vibration by which people functions by. By keeping us thinking negatively about ourselves, it keeps many of us functioning at a lower vibrational level. It's also the reason why millions of us now self-identify by the N-word, call our women by the B-words, sags our pants, and glorifies pimps. White social engineering scientists and white propagandists have negatively distorted our culture through a nefarious ideological subversion system. Ideological subversion is a gradual brainwashing process that is divided into 4 basic stages. The first stage is demoralization. The second stage is destabilization. The third stage is crisis. And the fourth is normalization. To keep this video short, I'm only going to provide a summary of the first one, which is demoralization. Demoralization of a targeted audience is the first step in successful mind control. Whenever those in power want to control the behaviors and minds of a targeted population, the first thing they do is heavily demoralize them. People are easily controlled by the information that they routinely receive about themselves. When people receive positive, affirming information, this uplifts them and unifies them. It can even give them the confidence they need to stand up against their oppressors. However, to the contrary, when people are constantly inundated with negative, demoralizing information about themselves, the exact opposite effect happens. This divides them, demoralizes them, makes them self-loathing, self-doubting, and it causes them to lose confidence within themselves. This loss of confidence not only makes them more compliant with their oppressor's dominance over their lives, in many cases, it will make them even prefer it. The demoralization process taps into the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of black people. Those black people who do not critically think never notices their mental chains. Those of us who tell you the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison that you don't even know you're trapped within. It's time to wake up to our reality. Because the most difficult prison to escape is the prison for the mind. The truth has finally come forth, but they brainwash millions of us to fear it and to hate those who speaks it. These are those black people that have been brainwashed to literally act as wardens of their own mental prison. Millions also refuse to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes with accepting the truth. Many therefore cling to believing in their biblical fairy tales and the silly slave syndrome myth that keeps our minds dumbed down and distracted to the benefit of the white society. It is time to wake up to the truth. The time of believing in dumb shit is over. One love and peace.